Remove all four these 8mm screws. Pull this cover away. Remove this duct. Remove the T30s here and here. The same on the other side. Fold this backwards like that. And you're gonna wanna also be careful and fold this over here as well, like that. There should be enough room. Be careful on these little plastic ends, they tend to break when it gets really hot. Undo this T25 mounting the cooling fan right here. I pry right here on this connector until I hear a click, and then I'll take my other hand and pull and press this connector, and it slides right out. Remove the lower engine cover, and then remove this T25 for the transmission cooler. Remove this plastic cover with the 8mm here and here. This kind of falls out. While you're under the car, remove this 16mm bolt. So I got my flathead. Just set this up. I got my flathead, and I'm gonna pry against this little part right here. Pry this, and then you can pull the cooling fan up and out of the way. So see that's locked. I'm gonna pry it. And it just lifts up like so. Remove the T30 holding this cooling bracket to the subframe, or I guess some sort of crossover pipe that's right there, and the other one is right here. Undo these 10mm bolts on the cooling reservoir so that you can move it out of the way to gain access to this bracket bolt right here. And there's also one down here. If you look this way, another bolt. That's a 16. For both of these fasteners, I just used a long extension and a swivel, and I just prop this reservoir out of the way so that I can get to the one tucked up in there. Something like that. Okay. Now finagle this bracket around from over there over the sway bar, and you can just pull it out like this. Here's a better visual of the water pump and thermostat and what we're going to do. My personal preference is to just remove these 3 hoses and leave these 2 hoses attached and take it off as a unit. You can remove this hose if you can get to it and just take the thermostat off and do it one by one. I personally just like to do both of them at the same time. This little output pipe right here is the last connection to the engine, and I go into a little bit of detail on where that is later, but that's the most difficult connector to get to. And once you do that, after removing these 3, you can remove the mounting bolts and remove the whole assembly. Now we can start attacking the thermostat. Just kind of take hoses off as you see them. I'm gonna start with this big one here that goes to the radiator so that I can drain all of the fluids. A lot of the times after a bunch of heat cycles, these hoses kind of get stuck on. Like after I have this clip removed, it's kind of hard by hand. So I like to just find where to pry. And so right here, I can get my pry bar up in there and
try to negotiate getting this thing out. And slowly just pry a little bit and it will come out. After removing this hose, you have access to this connector that's further back. Back here, you can remove that. While I let shit dribble like this, I'll remove the connectors from the thermostat and the water pump. So one of them is located right there, that's the water pump. And the thermostat connector is also kind of tucked away right there. Now you have access to this hose clamp where the Mickey Mouse flange goes to. I'm using a swivel 6 in junction with a bunch of extensions. Lets me get to that hose clamp. The thermostat is mounted to the water pump here by two 10mm bolts.
Here's a better visual of the water pump with the mounting bolts, E12, the connector, and the final coolant connection to the engine. The hose clamp 6mm is right here, kind of behind that hose. And you can get that swivel like I had it right through there. And once you remove these bolts, you can grab it and just pull it off of that hose.
So the last actual coolant hose connection, after you move that thermostat kind of out of the way, is actually right here to the water pump. And once you remove that, all the coolant hoses to the engine itself are done. You can remove the water pump from these bolts here, and then one tucked away up there on top. This is where the upper hose connection is, where I was talking about. I have it with my swivel 6 connected, but this is how I get to it. And that's enough room to take that hose clamp off and then pull that hose off. Now you can undo these two Torx. It's an E12. Two E12s here. And then the last one is in that little crevice. This little wedge right here. Right up in there. From doing so, you're able to get this water pump out to the side along with the thermostat. And they can come out together slowly. And you have enough space to pull it out from the top. Be careful, don't damage the radiator. And then you can go from the top of the car and remove it together. She is. Now you just clean all the muck and the sludge and the money. All that's left to do is to transfer over this hose back to your new parts. I opted to go with an aluminum one just for personal reasonings. You can clean this area or not, whatever you like to do. It's gonna leak again anyway because it's a BMW, so do with that as you wish. And you know, through the top, put the water pump and thermostat assembly through that hole. Torque down the new bolts that you get. I'll put the torquing down in there and install everything else in reverse order. I'm not gonna bore you with that. If you can't put it back together after taking it off, maybe you shouldn't work on your own cars. I mean, that's the stitch, you know? Good luck. Finally, you want to go and look at this video. Skip to 2 minutes because they talk too much. Basically, you need to do the venting procedure, and you're going to turn the fan on to one setting like he's doing, and the heat all the way up. You're going to put your low beam lights on and press the accelerator all the way down, and that in turn should start your water pump and vent it with any air that's been the engine's been exposed to. I would recommend keeping your battery charger on it, and I think most scanners should be able to help you with this procedure to tell you how to do it.